What's up? What's up, family? Social media family. 7.5 billion people on the planet. And also to Facebook and all the wonderful things that you guys have permitted us to do by trying to reach the world and tell our stories. And hopefully through that we are able to motivate people to see the deeper value of themselves. Hope that everybody is going well. I hope that your days are productive, and I hope that, like so many people are saying, that we're taking this time to sit back and reflect on who we are as a person and who we are as a community and who we are as the human family. This particular day and time has allowed me to want to talk about how people live their lives, how people perceive their lives, and just how people just get along with just living in general. How many of you in this world have taken these last few days to think about yourself from a different perspective, because you're limited in terms of social distancing and making yourself limited in terms of the things that you can do? How often are we allotted this time to just think about ourselves and to try to reevaluate and see the value of ourselves as it relates to the world in general? A lot of media coverage on how things are and when things will get better and how things will normalize going forward. But nonetheless, and my whole take on this is that time is not going to wait on anybody to do anything, right? So what I've been able to do with my time, and I've been really appreciative of it, is that I've taken the time to read. But I'm an avid reader anyway. But I've taken the time to try to go through or reevaluate the books that I've been able to put my mind on, and try to think about certain things in terms of the overall meaning that we give to our lives, our own personal lives, and how that translates to our families, and then how that translates to our community, so forth and so on, until we become a global human being. And I think this time of reflection for most of the world now is that particular moment where the global human being has to think about all human beings at the same time. We really don't get a chance to see that. We really don't get a chance to make that moment very powerful in our lives, because when we're inundated with going all the time, we never really take time out for ourselves. We never really take time out for our families, and we never really take time out to just walk outside and look at our community. This type of situation forces us to do that, right? And even though we're reluctant to try to buy into everything, but we're understanding of the fact that we have to buy into certain things. And when I was thinking about the world from a historical perspective, even when I try to go back to the beginning of time, we were just permitted to have free will. And principles of free will just basically mean, conduct yourself accordingly. And throughout the world, human beings have been conducting themselves accordingly to everything that we have. But when we reach a situation like this where isolation and self-quarantine becomes necessary to have the human family to curb off or to purge whatever is happening in the atmosphere or to ourselves, then we have to think about what's necessary in life. What does it take to truly live in life? And I'm going through a book, and when I was reading, there's this young man named Solomon who was ordained to be the king of Israel from his father David. And God said to Solomon, tell me what you want and I'll give you anything that you want, because I found myself, I see you and I see you as being worthy, right? Solomon could have asked for anything in the world from the supreme being that he desired. He said, look, only thing that I want you to give me is I want you to give me wisdom. I don't care about the riches or the wealth. Just give me wisdom. Now, I want to ask you with us being 7.5 billion people on the planet and us just being descendants of any heritage that we have. You can trace everything back as far as you want. But as far as you can trace back the living man is, you can go all the way back to Adam. But Solomon said at the time that he was in existence, he said, I don't care about wealth. I don't care about riches. Just give me wisdom. And, the Creator says, since you asked for that, I'm going to give you that. But since you didn't ask for the other thing, which was riches and wealth, I'm going to grant you that as well. And then you get wise people to say to everybody in the world, you got to seek wisdom in life. If you get wisdom, you get the knowledge and understanding, then you can have what you want. Solomon was granted wisdom and he was given wealth and riches. I think we got to understand that we have the discernment to find out what's wise. We have the discernment to know what's knowledgeable, and we have the understanding to know the difference between the two. Straight wisdom is something that's divine. If you ask for it, you get it. And sometimes people are just born with it and they don't even know that they have it, but I think it's innate in all human beings. And at this time and at this juncture, right, we got to be able to say that we need wisdom to better guide ourselves in what we're doing. And sometimes man don't provide wisdom, they just provide knowledge. And then from that knowledge, we gather understanding. But wisdom far exceeds all of that. And I think that we have to learn to make wisdom the overall standing point in our lives every day. And in this, the moment of reflection, like in today's reflection time, we have to see whether or not we are wise. Not just you or me, like the individual in this time, but have we made our family wiser, or our children made to dwell in wisdom? Is my husband, my wife, my significant other, are we trying to steep our mind in wisdom? Are we trying to be wise enough to make decisions that impact the whole global family? And you can't impact the whole global family until you first impact yourself. When you impact the whole global family, if you come on Facebook or Instagram or any social media, or you get any kind of media attention, you're trying to heal a mind of a humanity that's hurt. A humanity that doesn't know that they're hurt, but a humanity that's hurt nonetheless. And the reason I say that we're hurt is because 9 times out of 10, we have to run to the synagogues, we have to run to the mosques, we have to run to the churches, and we have to run to the temples, we have to run to what we call the wise men and women of the kingdom, or we have to run inside of books to see what we can gather so that we can garnish up the strength to say that I need the power of discernment now because this is upon me. And then we have to run to the world of riches. We have to run to the world of wealth. And nothing is wrong with any of these things. It's just that when you sit down at night, you have to ask yourself, have I given the greatest wisdom to myself so therefore I could give it to the world? And I guess wisdom is something that may not necessarily be conceived in books. Wisdom is something that comes in a flash to the mind to say that this is the right thing to do. And wisdom is always going to guide you right. Wisdom is never going to cause you to sidestep or do anything that's inconsistent with the human being, the spiritual part of you that causes you to proceed forward in life. We aren't really guided by wisdom. If we really truly look at the human family, we're not guided by wisdom. We're guided by knowledge that we think is wisdom. And then we impart that to our family. Sometimes we give it in selfish ways. We tell them that, no, you look out for yourself. You take everything you can to do and hoard it for yourself, and you worry about other people later. But wise men like Solomon, they just give to people first, and then they worry about themselves last. And then that way you begin to heal people. And you don't know whether or not wise men and women go down in history as being respected and loved. But the one thing you say is that when that person was here, they did good. But when you have riches and wealth, man, the world loves you. Because when you have riches and wealth, you can do for the poor, but you have to do for the poor and not want anything in return. Solomon was wise first, so he was able to do for the poor and the orphan because he had put his mind above all other things, but all other things were given to him. So what's given to us, ladies and gentlemen, in this day and time? Are we a wise person, or are we a wise community, or are we a inspirational world? Or are we just people that when times get tough, we just take what is necessary or more than what's necessary for ourselves, and then we just say forget everybody else? And when you read books and they're trying to give you wisdom, you see that every time something happens in life, somebody's trying to take too much from someone else, and that leads to frustration, and that leads to retaliation, and that leads to us not really taking care of the human being. Now, in life, since you have free will, you can do what you want, ladies and gentlemen. Like right now, with the way they have us at home, you can stay up in your house and be miserable all day. Or you can just get out of your house, practice the social distancing and practice all those other things, and just walk out and look at life. This morning, I'll give you an example. This morning when I got up, and normally I meditate in the morning, but I got up this morning and this bird was outside, and this bird was like singing this beautiful song. You know, birds always sing beautiful songs. I have yet to hear one that's not beautiful. But the bird was just singing, right? And before I could even get up to read anything, I just sat still for a moment just to listen to that song. Because even with our social distancing and the things that we're going through, the creatures of nature aren't really suffering through this thing like we are, right? They got their own set of body chemistries that they have to deal with, and all things being equal, they're going to still wake up and sing every morning. And then I thought to myself, am I still singing my song, right? Am I still the guy that is trying to find the best way to function in the world with my human family as well as myself, so that I can appreciate my own song? We all have one, and regardless of how it may be at the end of the day, we all have our own individual songs that we have to sing, right? And every morning we got to practice that, and particularly at this particular time, because the greater quiet you can have within is the greatest peace you can put without. And we don't want a quiet mind, you know, like these rappers or these guys on Instagram. They're playing all this music and they're saying, like, you know, you gotta make your life a party, and that is true. Like, you gotta still enjoy what's going on. But I'm just an advocate of, after you've done all that partying with your mind, can you just sit down for like an hour and not say anything or do anything? Just let your mind roam free about everything that has happened up to this point. Can you get your children to sit down for an hour, even if they want to play the video game or do anything, and just tell them, just sit quiet for a moment, as long as they can take it and see what they can see in themselves? And then can we do it if we have a family and see how those things are? The more connected we can get through silence, the stronger we can be when we have a lot of noise. So this world is created in silence. Your wisdom comes in silence. Your idea comes in silence. Once you can find out what the idea, the silence is so powerful that it can give you a plan of action. Once you write out that plan of action, then if that silence is still a part of that plan, then you can go out and execute this all the time. And there's a young man named Rich Fontaine. He has written another book called The Nerd Who Saved the Universe or something like that. And he kind of walks you through the process that he has taken to write a book for little kids and anybody that wants to get out here and learn something. And what you find from writing, ladies and gentlemen, what happens when you write is that there's a certain energy in the universe that takes over your mind and gives you a creative force. Then that gives you a creative idea, and then you're able to manipulate the words the way you want and tell a story. When you get on Facebook and you do your Facebook Live and you tell a story, you might have an outline as to what you want, but then when you let that outline be consumed in silence, then you can talk to the world the way you want, and it'll still give you the same results. So my message today is, if you're asking for anything in life after you get all the necessary food and the necessary things that you need for your household, then try to see whether or not we're wise with what we're doing. Try to see whether or not we are consoling ourselves and our family through this tremendous time in humanity, and see whether or not we can share our love with ourselves and with our family, and hopefully it can branch out to the rest of the human family. And to all the young people out here in the world, you know, this world is going to be yours sooner or later. You know, I might live to be 1,000 years old, but that may not be the case. And even if I live to be 1,000, I don't know, I'll probably either be walking or levitating through this thing. I don't know. But the future of every country in this world, or every continent, is the young people. And their energy is not matched by my energy. Their enthusiasm is not matched by my enthusiasm, but they are enthusiastic about life. And we still got to encourage people to understand that you got to remain vigilant, you got to remain enthusiastic, you got to remain motivated, and you got to remain thoughtful in terms of what's your overall aim during this quiet time in our lives. Is it to make a better human being? Is it to make a selfish human being? Or is it to make a thoughtless human being? If you're trying to be the human being that is seeking wisdom, then you can kind of decipher as to which direction you're going to go and the direction that you want to carry us. Until all the older generations or the people of my age, you still are a torchbearer for wisdom. No matter how ignorant we may pretend to be or how selfish we may pretend to be, we're still that beacon. We still got that torch for wisdom. We still got the torch for knowledge. We still got the torch for understanding. And so we also hold a torch for ignorance as well. Because fire can burn anything, no matter how you use it. It's a tool used in any way that you want. But when you use the fire to brighten things or to cook things or to make things better, then you'll see that the fire that you hold is a fire of wisdom. And if you're anything like Solomon, or if you're anything like any wise person in any religion, as that will go, then you will see the direction when you mature spiritually. Physically, this body, you're going to shape it up, but it's going to break down. Mentally, you can read all the books, but sooner or later that's going to do. But spiritually, sooner or later the mental is going to fade as well. But spiritually, if you can get some peace out of all of this, then that journey is much more pleasant. And the last thing I'll do before I conclude is, I've been watching a lot of Netflix, and sometimes you watch so much junk that it doesn't really feed anything. You decipher, you keep, you toss, and then you do that. But there's one show, I don't know if you guys seen this or not, but it's Morgan Freeman, and he does this series called In Search of God, right? And what he does in an unbiased way, it's totally unbiased. He goes to all parts of the world, ladies and gentlemen, and he goes to the wise men and women or the thought leaders of that time, and he asks them questions about the divine. And every time that he does this, the people that explains this, they explain the divine in the way that they understand it. And what he does at the end is so brilliant, is that he allows the individual that's watching the show to make up their own mind. Is that not wise of someone to do? Like, if you really want to know about something, I'm going to put everything out here for you. And then it's up to you to make up your own mind. And if you're making up your own mind, like when the show is over or the episode is over, you begin to see that from one end of the universe to the next, or from one end of the planet to the next, everybody has a perception or a perspective when it comes to what's divine. But ultimately, when you get done with all of your reading and your studying and going to the temples and the mosques, the synagogues, and to your thought leaders, when you sit down in your home, you're sitting down with you. And you are sitting down with you so that you can develop the best understanding about you and how you relate to that which is divine. And if you have any peace in it, in any perspective, then you'll be least likely to tear down somebody else because they don't see the world as you do. And if there's 7.5 billion people on this planet, then to me there's 7.5 billion perspectives. But then there's one perspective about all of this, is that we're born from the womb of a woman. We live because she brought us into this planet. And women are so spiritual that they connect to the divine before we, the physical man, does. It's because she sees more, she senses more than we do. And all things being equal, when she raised her children, she raised them this way. But when that child gets older, they can venture out and do what they want. Because a mother can always say, I can bring you to this door, but I can't take you through it. So ladies and gentlemen, just understand that when you sit down in wisdom, after you go from the churches, after you leave the mosques, the synagogues, the temple, and you go in your home and you have a decent meal, you have a nice drink of water, you have a nice drink of juice or whatever it is, before you repose at the end of the night, you're always sitting with you. Solomon would ask for wisdom, and every night that he reposed, Solomon sat with himself. So, ladies and gentlemen, during this moment of time, just try to make sure you do the best you can with that. And if you can do that, and if you can wake up in a different state of mind that day, then carry on. You'll lay down again and wake up again and carry on. And carry on until you really understand that we are here to serve at the pleasure of a supreme being that we can't even see. And when we run into situations like this, it's important that we all develop a certain level of harmony. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for spending time with me. Like I said, I really appreciate you guys for sharing this with other people. I appreciate you for liking it. If you have any comments, please drop them. But all I'm saying is, if you like it, just share it, because I really want people to understand what we're here for. I really want you to understand what you're here for. And then I really, 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 really want you to understand what we need to impart to our children. Until next time, peace.